Hello and welcome back to the Modern Firm Podcast. We're back again, Darren.
Hey, John. How's your week been?
It's been good. I'm in the senior in high school, freshman in high school world, so I got
big event tonight,
senior
right?
night tonight. Yes.
So, rumor has it you bought a purple sweater.
I bought a purple sweater. I spent a lot of money on a sweater that I'm not going to wear more than tonight because when I got it, I'm like, oh, the team colors are purple, and that is really purple.
Did you have Dad printed on it anywhere?
No, my daughter would not let me walk on the court with her if I had London's dad printed on it. But
Sally, that would be perfect.
Yes, right. So it's going to be a good night. She's got a bunch of awards.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so it's good. I'll tell you, the older I get, the more moments like this slow down for me. And I just start to feel like I don't want it to go too fast.
Yeah.
So, even recording a podcast with you and being in the room with friends, and it's just like, let's slow this down.
Yeah.
You know? And
if you figure that out, let me know.
Yeah, I get it in waves, and sometimes I move way too fast. But speaking of that, we want to talk today about something that's really near and dear to my heart. Darren, our last episode, if you're listening to these in order, I think our last episode was on security, which, man, all I have to do is say the word and you're off and running.
Important topic.
Yeah, it is. But I feel the same way about smart team management.
For sure.
This is a passion of mine for a long time. We think about your team. We think about the group of people that really delivers your product, that gives shape and gives brand to who you are as a firm. It used to be that you could take for granted that your team would come and work and just on the honor system would do their work. And I'm not sure it was ever as good as we thought it was because we didn't have ways of measuring it, but we just trusted people. And I think that those days have come to an end, not because people have changed, but because we understand the market, we understand our responsibility to our clients, and we understand what team is better than we ever had. And so, I think it's just like everything else. There's some good things and bad things with the evolution of the way we do teams.
So, yeah, I remember the days where I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about finding new team members or keeping the team members that we had. So when you say you think they've changed,
yeah,
in what way do you think, other than making it harder today,
yeah,
to find new people, especially maybe in the tax and accounting space, or the mobility of the people that you have,
yeah,
and maybe if you have a bad business model, their lack of desire to want to continue to,
right,
perpetuate that, and so they go do something else. How else do you think the team has changed?
There's so many ways that I think are good that our evolution has led us to. Whether it's technical, we have a better opportunity to communicate with one another via Teams and via Slack and via all of the ways that we communicate. There are new ways for us to talk with one another. We've got new options. When I think about the pandemic and what came of the pandemic, I think 50 years from now, we'll be talking about how the pandemic changed the way small businesses work. I hope it does, because I think it was for the better in a couple ways. One is that we began to think about where you work as important of what you get as what you get done at work. And at the same time, we started realizing, wait a minute, I don't trust this person who I sent home to get their work done, but I'd never measured what they were doing before. So why do I trust them when they're sitting in my building, but not when they're sitting at their house? Because I wasn't watching either way. So what it's done is it's allowed us to attach metrics to the way what we expect from our team in a new way. And this is one of the things that I think smart team management is responsible for, is to say, what do we expect from the people that we hire? Everyone on your team deserves to know that, what you expect. It used to be when your dad was in accounting, he expected your car to be in a parking lot for a certain amount of time and for you to get work done, but there wasn't this sense of job description. There wasn't a whole lot of people talking about a purpose in their life and then their job. And all of those things had led us to be, I hope, more clear with what we expect from our team. And then it gives our team this sense of relief and that lack of anxiety and ambiguity that comes with just wondering if I'm doing my job well.
So I think what you're saying, and again, just to kind of catch our listeners up to where we've come from our first episode of this new Modern Firm podcast. We've talked about smart firm management, and we talked about smart client management. We then talked about smart security management, and now we're talking about ways to do better smart team management.
Yeah.
And I think what you're saying is there's new challenges that firms are dealing with, and we hear this everywhere. So I think it's obvious that there's new challenges, and I think what I heard you say is you feel like a lot of this has been the result of probably sped up from the pandemic.
Yeah, just exacerbated by.
Yeah. And so we're really feeling that as accounting firms today.
Yeah.
And you're picking at some things that I think they're important to pick at, which is do I need to see people sitting in the office in order to feel good about their productivity, or can I trust them, or do I trust them? Am I measuring the right things to have them be wherever they need to be?
Yeah.
And because that arguably 2-year period, John, it was just so strange, because when in our lifetime have you ever seen us just be able, to shut off life in some respects?
Crazy.
And be at home. That could, outside of a pandemic, could that have ever happened?
I don't think there's another way really for that to have happened. And as we look back on it, I think it's surreal feeling even now.
Yeah.
To think about how we worked and how we learned to work.
We forget things pretty quickly.
We do,
Yeah.
but it did microwave some things. It made us send people home. It made us figure out how we're going to do security, how we're going to take care of these things, how we're going to communicate. It made us create some processes that we never had been forced to create before. I think the thing that has changed the most, and I'm not saying this is just since the pandemic, but certainly since I was first starting out as a professional, is this sense of how a leader gets the most out of their team. So when I entered the professional world, it was like, and you still hear people talk this way, traditional firms and traditional businesses, they say things like, I just can't get enough out of these people. Like they somehow have a wash rag that they're trying to squeeze all the last drops out of. That's the way management was. That's the way leadership was for a long time. Now we've come to a place where we realize if you really want to get the most out of your people, you don't squeeze them. You provide an environment where they can be at their best, which is a totally different way to think about your team. Rather than this sense of just accountability all the time, this sense of somebody over your shoulder all the time, this sense of ambiguity, but a hand in the back, is something that the next generation of workers and even the current generation of workers have said no more. And to me, that's the most interesting change that's happened since the pandemic. And it was already coming, but the pandemic microwaved it.
I know in our organization, you get the opportunity to talk to firm owners all the time because they reach out to you, and they reach out to you with different kinds of questions than they reach out to me with. Kind of talk a little bit about what you see firm owners what kind of questions are they asking you? What are they dealing with? What are the staff dealing with from your perspective?
The number one question has not changed since I've been doing this, and that is, how do I deal with change? I've got we're just creating a new process, or we're just instituting a new piece of software. Why does this person who has been here for 14 years hate everything? That's the number one question I got. And what we've learned is that change management starts with the environment.
So you'd say one of the biggest challenges that firms are dealing with is change management. And just to be, I think, clear, I don't see this slowing down.
No.
The rate of change is going to continue on. I mean, we're at the precipice of really seeing the change in artificial intelligence and what that's going to do to the way that we work.
Yeah.
I don't see that yet as something that's going to actually eradicate all the jobs in this space, but it's going to change the way we do our daily work.
Yeah.
And that's just another thing of change. So change is
a big deal. Another one is staffing. Just having, I get questions from a lot of firm owners that are just, how do I hire the next person? I talked to a firm owner a couple weeks ago out in Washington State. Great firm, fantastic firm. They lost 2 of their employees, want to hire 2 new bookkeepers. Both of the candidates they have are 2 years. They have 2 years of experience, and they want to start their salary at $110,000. And that's more than any of the bookkeepers she's paying that have more tenure. And these are great. They got paid that at their last job. Out west, it's crazy expensive. And she's just saying, what do I do? How do I create this space for more salary? Is this too much? And so we have questions about what expectations firm owners should have about this generation of staff. And the truth is, this new generation is expecting something different than the old.
Yeah.
And I'm getting that question a lot.
Which, I mean, to me, if compensation is changing, and I completely agree with the notion that it is, we have to re-examine as firm owners our entire business model and see whether we're doing the right work, have the right amount of people, are we charging clients enough?
Absolutely.
I mean, this is if the market for salaries is shifting as much as I believe that it is, and what you're hearing that it is, then we as firm owners, or the firm owners out there, need to re-examine their business models to make sure they can support the changing environment.
Darren, I would say that is probably the most profound thing to take away from this conversation around smart team management. Is it's easy to think, oh, if I pay them more, if I give them perks, I can send them a box of snacks, I can get them counseling, all of those things. Our staff problems are driven by a business model. And this is first and foremost a business model issue. The way that we treat our staff comes from what we expect from them because of often messed up client base, a messed up product understanding, and a way of serving people. This is why I think being a part of Rightworks has been so important to me. I care most about these people. We need to provide them tools and resources that can build their business model in a way that's sustainable for human life. My favorite phrase, could you build a firm that supports life instead of uses it, instead of just consumes it up? And
I think the traditional firm, as I've been a part of the accounting profession as a professional for 40 years, but my dad practiced before me, so I've been around it my entire life. And for a good part of that, an accounting firm, from my perspective, was life sucking. It was sucking the life out of most people. And I think we still hear that. Again, you're talking to firm owners all the time. I think we're still hearing that a lot. And most of that has to do with the business model, to your point. The business model that has been adopted, or in most cases adapted in firms. It's just kind of gravitated into, you started doing a bunch of tax returns because it was easy to get tax returns, and next thing you know, you've got all these deadlines and craziness. And
then Darren, what breaks my heart, I've been calling it the drift, because it doesn't happen on purpose. Firm owners they don't pay attention to their business model because they don't have time, and they drift into something that they would have never created on purpose. And the next thing they know, Anita, who they love, who's worked here for 17 years, comes to them and says, I can't do this anymore. It's killing my life. And it breaks their heart because they realize I've built something I didn't mean to build.
And kind of going back to one of your earlier points, change management. Change is hard on everybody.
It is.
It seems. And so changing that business model is hard on the owners or partners of a firm.
It is.
They've got revenue models, geared towards their existing business model.
Yeah.
And shifting that is complicated.
It is.
Creates a lot of insecurity. And so therefore it doesn't seem to happen. This feels like a bit of a car that's out of control.
It's exactly what it feels like.
And it's just hard to shift directions or get control of that without a real strategy to do that.
Yeah, what I've been saying recently is at all costs, you've got to get control of your business model, because you can put Band-Aids on the staffing issues. But the most important thing you can do in your firm is create a safe place for people to absorb change, because change is going to happen in your firm all of the time. And we know the only way to navigate change successfully is to create a safe place for it to happen. Same thing happens in your family. You want routine in your family. The worst part of our family's life is in the summer when nobody has any routine. You start making changes and everything starts flying off. When you get your business model under control, everybody knows this is who we serve, this is what we do here, these are the products we deliver, and this is how we do it. If things change in the middle of that, it's okay. We've got a solid footing where we put our trust, and we know this works. The biggest problem with teams that I see is an out of control business model, and it starts with leadership.
So you would say, as we think about the framework for smart team management, business model, critically important.
Yeah.
Making sure we're measuring
the right things.
And it's probably just not butts and seats.
Yeah.
It's, are we measuring productivity in the right way? Are we giving people the flexibility to work in new ways?
Yeah.
Have we set up the IT infrastructure to support all of this? Your team is just so important to the success of your firm.
It really is.
Maybe the most important thing to the success of your firm.
Make or break.
What am I missing?
Well, I think the last thing I would say, Darren, is that you also need someone who cares about the human beings as just a part of their life that you can put in charge, and we call them a smart team manager. This is somebody in your firm who I've yet to meet a firm who doesn't have someone that likes to plan the parties, that thinks about the birthdays, that remembers the people before the work. If that's not
creates the community.
They create community just as a byproduct of working and living. Most firm owners don't feel that way. They just don't. It's not a character problem. It's just they're analytical. They think about the work that has to be done and they go home. Totally understandable. Your job as a leader and the firm owner is not to all of a sudden be the kumbaya emotional leader of your firm. Please don't do that. Find the person in your firm who is and elevate them so that in a meeting they can go, you know what? Angie is not going to deal well with that conversation, so let me get in front of it. They can be thinking about the people. They can be thinking about the relationships. They can be thinking about the clarity and the business model all at the same time. That's the part that's most fun for this, is that in smart team management, you get to tell someone they're a leader who has probably never been before and help them elevate and get to a point in your firm where people matter most.
Yeah, I think this is such an important topic, John, because like I said, anytime we do an event, you start hearing from people after the event, the challenges that they're having. This is, I think, one of the number one challenges that firms seem to be dealing with.
It is.
And, I think we'd be remiss in not talking a little bit about mental health. I know, whether it's our organization at Rightworks or the bank that I'm on the board of, I'm hearing from HR in both of those places.
Yeah.
And I was talking to the CEO of a large wine company, and she was telling me one of the top issues that they deal with is mental health. Mm-hmm. And so different industries. So one was banking, one was accounting, and the other, or one's IT and the other is wine. People are dealing with this.
They are.
Across industries.
What I'm trying to do is create boundaries in this conversation around mental health, because the truth is it's overwhelming. It's a systemic problem in our culture, This is not just about your accounting firm. So what I'm trying to do is say, what are the responsibilities of the accounting firm when it comes to someone's mental health?
So you're trying to help firms create their boundaries.
They need boundaries around this, because if you get someone who's a bleeding heart, like we find a lot of people
like
this
you?
way, like me, and they go, I want to fix this person's mental health. That's not you can't.
Yeah.
In fact, you shouldn't. It's not your job.
Yeah.
It's gonna be at the detriment of the rest of your team. So the question is, what may this firm be contributing to a mental health problem? What are my responsibilities to this firm? And then most people want to go just a little further than responsibilities. So you find that boundary. What is a professional boundary and what is a personal boundary? And sometimes you go over that and you want to lean towards personal, but don't take responsibility for someone's mental health. First and foremost, their mental health is their responsibility. Now, this is where we really work hard, Darren. I've been working on what I'm calling now I can't even think. Vital signs. I've been calling this your vital signs of your culture. This is what your smart team manager will work through. Same thing that happens like with my mom and dad right now. They're getting to the age where everything hurts all the time. And my dad will call me and say, something's wrong with my chest. The only way for me to know if it's serious is to check his blood pressure, to check his pulse, to do those things that are vital signs. Same thing happens in your firm. It's going to feel like an emergency sometimes. People are going to be mad at each other. This is part of human nature. The question is, are there things that we can objectively look at inside the firm? This is net promoter scores. There's a vast number of tools. Things like Bamboo HR, ADP's doing some great things when it comes to creating some tools that give us quantifiable ways of measuring the health of our culture at a very numeric level. And those vital signs give us this baseline to say, here's what we're responsible for. We're responsible to create a place where everybody knows their job, they're clear about what we're doing. And once you get to that point, mental health becomes about facilitating someone getting help, but not about creating a place where they can get help at work.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to work on that. Those are things I'm writing about on a regular basis, because this is not easy conversation.
Yeah, no. And everybody seems to be, every business that I come in contact with seems to be dealing with the same challenges. So, I mean, I think the important takeaway is your firm, you're not alone.
You're not alone.
Right. But this conversation's real.
Yeah.
And you need to be aware.
You do. And the last thing I would say, Darren, is all of these 5 components are so interwoven. You know, you just heard me say the biggest problem with your team is your business model. You got to get your who, your what, your how figured out. The same thing is true when it comes to your security. Your security is a culture issue. It's a people problem. You got to get everybody caring about this thing. And so all of this stuff is woven around,
for sure,
the same 2 things.
If your technology is all screwed up and people can't get their job done over the course of a day, it just doesn't work. It creates frustration, which creates, I mean, to your point, it's as my oldest son, we could never understand what he was saying. He would always say, I want to go to the place that's all naked. We were like, what? And he'd say, yeah, the place that's all naked. And we finally realized that he was saying to the mall. Oh, yeah, right? It's all connected. It's all connected. How about that? It's all naked.
It is, man. It's all connected. And this is why we've worked so hard at breaking up into these buckets and these specific management issues and SMART, because we want to give you these bite-sized options. But the truth is, as you work on one, they get better. And I love the thought that we would have this technology offering at the base of this that would say, let us take care of some of those variables. Let us give you this solution that will help take care of some of those things that you because you've got other things to deal with. And I think really that's where all of this fits, is finding the right infrastructure. And what we've been saying from the beginning is the 2 most important things in your firm are your client base and your team. That's your people.
But I think the key takeaway from today is it's all naked.
It's all naked. Try to figure out how to spell that one in the title for this episode. Oh, well, hey, thanks for listening today. I hope you heard something that moves you more towards a modern firm. Darren, it was fun.
Yeah, thanks, John.
See you next time.